welcome to Schools Not Out, your daily classroom for CSEC and CAPE students. You can watch this lesson real-time on Television Jamaica's YouTube channel or One Spot Media. We're also live on Music 99 and GoJamaica.com. If you have any questions on today's subject, you can send them into Television Jamaica's Facebook page at Television Jamaica or Instagram at television_Jamaica. Today's lesson is on CAPE Economics Unit 1. We will be focusing on income distribution and poverty. I am Abigail James. Now, this is a very interesting lesson, lots to cover. So let us just look at our objectives for today. At the end of today's lesson, we should be able to differentiate between size and functional distribution of income. We want to look at the concept of income inequality, how we measure it, some ways to reduce income inequality. We're going to look at the distinction between absolute and relative poverty, factors that contribute or cause poverty, look at some of the characteristics or categories, of persons who will fall to poverty more than others, and we're going to look at, again, ways to measure poverty. So let's begin. Now, with income inequality, there are two terminologies that I just want us to understand, and the first one is functional distribution of income. Now, functional distribution of income measures how much of income of the income society how much income in society goes to persons who actually own those resources, or what we call the factors of production. So here it says, it tells us how much income in an economy goes to those who actually own it. So if you don't own any, then you will not receive the rewards of having those factors of production. Size distribution of income. Now, under this method, income of individuals and households is collected and arranged in an ascending order, and the data is usually divided among groups. So you'll have it divided in 5 groups that are called quintiles, representing 20% of data, or deciles in groups of 10, representing 10% of the data in percentage form. Then it is determined that what each percentage of the group percentage, what percentage of the total income is received by that particular income group. Now, sometimes in multiple choice, they will ask you questions for you to know the distinction or be able to tell the distinction between size distribution and functional distribution of income. But what is income inequality? And I'm sure I can hear some of my students saying, when income is not equal. Yes, but let us look at a more defined and proper definition of the term. Income inequality is looking at the unequal distribution of household or individual income across various participants in the economy. So, for example, a statistic may indicate that 70% of a country's income is controlled by 20% of the country's residents. Income inequality is often associated with the idea of income fairness. It is generally considered unfair if the rich have a disproportional larger proportion of the country's income compared to the population. So income inequality is looking at how income is distributed among the population of a particular country. Now, it is measured 2 ways particularly. One is called the Lorenz curve, and the other, the Gini coefficient. I can see that you are remembering. But let's look at the Lorenz curve first. So it is looking at the actual distribution of income or wealth of a country. Now, if you look at the diagram here, just to refresh your memory, that 45-degree line represents what is called perfect equality. That means everybody are, in terms of, we're looking at the percentage of income on this axis versus the percentage of family that income is distributed equally. Now it is the curve, this part here, which sometimes I refer to as the belly. The further away it is from the line of equality, it means that income is growing more unequal as it relates to the percentage of families that own income in the economy. All right, I said that part already, that the percentage, if we look at the X and Y axis, it's between, sorry, there's a little cutoff here, percentage of income and percentage of families. Now, the greater the curvature of the Lorenz line, the greater the relative degree of inequality. So if you look at this first diagram here, in terms of where the Lorenz curve is to the line of equality, and if we look at this one here, panel B, line of equality and where the Lorenz curve fall, we can see quickly that panel B is showing that the degree of inequality is greater here for this particular country than this country. Now, the second measurement is referred to as the Gini coefficient. It's a commonly used measure of income inequality that condenses the entire income distribution for a country into a single digit between 0 and 1. The higher the number, the greater the degree of income inequality. So that means the closer the number is to 1, it represents a greater degree of income inequality. So you'll find that the coefficient, when you get, for example, a question which we will soon look at, that it varies between 0 and 1. 0 reflects complete equality and 1 indicates complete inequality, which could be interpreted that one person has all the income or consumption and all others have none. So the Gini coefficient, how it is calculated, it's the area here, A, is divided by both areas, A and B, that falls below or behind the Lorenz curve. But for exam purposes, you won't be asked to do that, but you must just understand how to interpret the coefficient. So here's a typical question. Which of the following countries has the greatest inequality of income distribution? We have here Barbados, 0.1, Trinidad, 0.3, St. Lucia, 0.7, and Jamaica, 0.9. Which one is closest to 1? I'm sure you're shouting the answer. Yes, it's Jamaica, 0.9. So the interpretation here is that Jamaica here has the greatest inequality of income distribution. Now, what are some of the ways that a country can employ to reduce income inequality? The first one here is taxes. Now, the government can manipulate taxes in order to reduce the level of income inequality through what is called a progressive tax system, where the government may charge higher income earners more taxes, and this will help to redistribute the income to the persons who are poor, as the government will have more money to spend on welfare programs to assist the poor. So we have to share. If you have the ability to earn more, then the government will charge you more in terms of taxes, and that tax is used to support those who are less fortunate. Now, a second way is the provision of subsidies of essential services such as healthcare and education that can be provided either free, heavily discounted at the point of consumption, in this instance, you have persons have access to health care. If you have a healthy workforce, they'll be able to earn more and be more productive. If they have access to education and training, then they are able to increase their skill set and be more productive, hence reducing the level of income inequality. We have minimum wage, and we spoke about minimum wage some weeks ago. Now, minimum wage helps to remove the problem of what we call poverty pay, which exists when the earnings from the work that is being done is not able to result in what I call a livable wage. So you're not able to purchase the basic necessities even from your work, and will not push the person out of a state of poverty. So increasing minimum wage will result in persons being able to provide the basic necessities of life. Another way is to reduce unemployment. Now, unemployment is one of the major causes of poverty. Now, unemployment can be reduced by the government sponsoring what we call job creation schemes. So sometimes if they have specific construction projects, they will employ persons for that. Active labor market policies to increase employability, such as retraining schemes, based on the climate of the economy, based on where technology is going. Then the labor market will have to answer to that, train their workers in order to meet that skill set that they need in the retraining programs. You have what is called welfare to work schemes. So persons may be on, for example, like the PATH program, but they are given the opportunity to get on-the-job experience, and based on performance, most times, sometimes they are retained in that industry. All right? That way they'll be able to earn and provide for themselves and their families. So we want to now switch gear and look at poverty. And please note that I have a big stop sign where that is. It's something that I don't like. I don't like poverty. I don't like to see it. We know the struggles, they are real, but we're going to look at it. Now, when somebody says they are poor and they are living in poverty, what is it that they are saying? Some definitions here. Poverty defines a state of deprivation where one lacks the basic resources such as food, clothing, and shelter needed to maintain an acceptable standard of living. It also describes the condition of persons who lack adequate levels of income and wealth to access basic human needs such as access to clean water, health care, nutrition, shelter, and clothing. Some persons may say, but I have access to these things, but I am still poor. Actually, there are two types of poverty, and we're going to look at them. Right? So for some persons, they say, I have access to certain things, but others find it difficult. So the first type of poverty is referred to as absolute poverty. And this is when the income of an individual is unable to afford the minimum basic needs. They can't afford food. They can't buy clothes. They can't afford decent housing, electricity, running water, and sometimes things that we take for granted, flush toilet. You know, you have some persons who are still using in what we call in our country days pit latrine. We don't like that, but they are unable to afford basic human needs. Then we have what is called relative poverty. Now, relative poverty means that the standard of living or the level of income is high enough to satisfy your basic needs like water, food, clothing, housing, and basic health care, but still significantly lower than that of the majority of the population under consideration. Simply put, you can afford certain things. You can afford to feed yourself and so on. But it may be that you're not able to purchase a home right now. You're still paying rent, all right, in comparison to another family who probably is a homeowner. You may not be able to, for example, own a car, or you'll have to do like the rest of us. You can't purchase it cash. You have to get a loan and pay how much money for how much years. But the point is, in comparison to the rest of the population, you are considered relatively poor. In some readings, countries have different criteria when they are looking at poverty. And I remember coming across a reading where owning certain appliances, like a refrigerator, a washing machine, if you didn't have that, that was considered in that country, you are relatively poor. But that's the two types of poverty: absolute poverty and relative poverty. Now, what are some of the causes of poverty? The first one, you don't own resources or factors of production. So the owners of factors of production will earn factor incomes or factor rewards. So persons in poverty usually do not own factors such as land and capital. And if you remember the rewards, the reward for land is rent, and for capital it is interest. So most times these individuals, they only own labor, that is their skills and training. And oftentimes persons in poverty, they are semi-skilled or little or no formal training. And as a result, they will only be able to earn low wages and not be able to afford the basic necessities. So the first cause here, you don't own, you're a non-owner of resources. The second cause of poverty is family size. I know this one may be a little bit tricky, but in this instance, cheaper by the dozen doesn't really work out. So if the household income have to be shared among members of a large family, what you find is that the average income per family is less when they have than if they had fewer family members. So what you'll find is that the distribution among the family members, it's really, you're stretching it. So if you're a family of 4, maybe mother, father, 2 children, it's easier to stretch the income than if you're a family of 8, mother, father, and 6 children. So family size really sometimes help to promote impoverishment. Single parent household, where a mother and father is left solely to take care of the family, and it makes them vulnerable to poverty. And this is one of the major factors influencing poverty levels, especially in Jamaica and the Caribbean. Because again, it is that single income that has to be stretched to do everything: food, clothing, shelter, be able to send the children to school. And so it can be quite difficult, and persons find themselves sometimes on the brink of poverty, or if not, in a state of poverty. A next cause of poverty is discrimination. Spoke about that some weeks ago too, where persons are discriminated based on gender, age, religious faith, sexual orientation, and social backgrounds. And you'll find that discrimination makes it very difficult for persons to find employment, hence making them vulnerable to a life of poverty. So they can't pick up a job because when they fill out the application form, you know, they are being discriminated against based on some of the information that they put forward. And so you find from time to time in reality that sometimes persons withhold full truth in that case in order to secure a job, which leads us to the fifth cause here: social and physical environment. So a person's social and physical environment relates to the condition in which they live and work, and their income level and educational background. what you'll find is that sometimes these factors compound either to motivate a person to break free from that cycle of poverty or to accept their current condition as their long-run reality. So what you'll find is that person will say, boy, you know, nobody in my family finished high school, nobody went to college, we all have to just stay here and just tug it out, and they just believe that that must be how it must be for them and their children, while some persons will use their condition, their environment to say, listen, no, it stops here. I'm going to break this cycle. I am going to take hold of all the opportunities that I can get in terms of education, and I'm going to reach for my goals and break this cycle of poverty. So social and physical environment can either motivate a person to break free from that cycle, or it sometimes just discourage persons and they continue in that cycle. Now, what are some of the groups that are vulnerable to poverty? The first one we have there is the physically challenged. Persons who have some form of disability. Sometimes they are not able to find suitable employment. Persons tend to discriminate, and sometimes they don't give them a fair chance. It doesn't mean that because you're visually impaired or hearing impaired that you are not able to be a productive citizen. That's not true. And sometimes they just need to give the individuals a chance, but it can happen. Elderly persons, those who are retired and old, and sometimes with being old, there are some health challenges, and they may not be able to work in their senior years. The youths, those who are probably young, just leaving high school, the parent may not be able to send them on to further studies. And may I just put a plug here for the youth? It's very difficult when you're going to say they need 5 or 3 years of work experience. They're just leaving school. Treat the youths right, or you'll be playing with dynamite. Give them a chance. Give them a chance. We have too many unattached youths who want to work, but they are not able to find suitable employment just because they are young and inexperienced. Then, as we said before, single-parent families sometimes fall vulnerable to poverty. The one income must be used to support everyone in that household. And if that single parent is unfortunately lose their job or they were laid off, then there's no form of income coming in, and the struggle really gets real at that time. Now, what are some of the measures that we can use to alleviate poverty? The first one here is education. Improving skills and productivity will increase wages. So what we'll find is that persons, once you better yourself, for want of our terminology, you take hold of the provision of primary and secondary education. May I put a plug in here also? We have a lot of training facilities, and even in this COVID period, I see online institutions offering free online courses. This will help you, to increase your skill set and productivity and allow you to earn a better standard of living. What we can also recommend, and it is done to a certain extent, subsidizing tertiary education. And also, may I just put something here that persons need to do a lot of research. There are scholarships out there. Do your research to help you to pay, whether it's a full scholarship, part scholarship, doing community service that will help you to get some form of scholarship. Education is one of the most sustainable ways of reducing or alleviating poverty. There is this saying, it says, give a man, I hope you can see it, it's not too dark, give a man a fish and you will feed him only once. Teach a man to fish and he'll feed himself his whole life. So I'm just saying here, as much as possible as it lies within your power, get some training, get your education, and you'll be able to support yourself for life. The second measure to alleviate poverty is lowering taxes. When taxes are reduced, it will increase disposable income. Disposable income refers to the income that you have to spend on goods and services. So if taxes are lower, persons will have more income. They'll be able to buy more food and clothing and other essential items that they will need to enjoy a decent standard of living. Implementing a progressive tax system where persons who earn the lowest income, they will pay less taxes in order to promote greater equity in terms of acquiring goods and services that they can enjoy a decent standard of living. A third measure that can be used to alleviate poverty is free health care. Greater access to health care will result in a healthier labor force and greater labor productivity. So less time will be called in because you're sick, you're not able to go to work because according to my grandmother, all kind of molly, gripe, and fluxy complaints. But if you have access to health care, you can make sure that you are, your blood pressure is in check, you're eating right, your nutrition level is up, and you will be able to work and be productive. And your company will see you as an asset and not a burden. Again, coming up here, minimum wage legislation. The aim of minimum wage is to ensure that there is a decent standard of living for the most vulnerable group of workers. Remember some weeks ago when we looked at wage differentials, we said if left by the market alone, demand and supply for labor, then the wage will be negotiated at a low rate. And so the government steps in and they stipulate a minimum wage. So remember again, we said that was placed above equilibrium market rate, and that is a legal minimum wage rate that is established by the government that based on your skills, you must be paid that amount per week. That will help persons to attain a decent standard of living. Then we have here facilities to finance micro or small businesses. And I use an example there. For example, Jamaica small business. Persons have that ambition that they want to be their own operators of their business. They want to be entrepreneurs. And so they can get loans at reasonable rates where they can set up their business and be able to provide for themselves and their families. And then we have the government creation, employment creation, where even though it's temporary, it really helps. It's a temporary employment scheme aimed at reducing poverty levels. So some years ago, there was a G program, the Jamaica Emergency Employment Program, where persons, they got jobs on a short-term basis. For some persons, they were able to attain employment at the industry that they were in because, based on attitude and their aptitude, the employer decided to keep them. All right? So so those are so far the measures to reduce or to alleviate poverty. If you have any question on what we have done so far, you can send them in on our various platforms, and I will see if I can answer in the final segment. When we come back, we'll answer your question and wrap up. Stay with us.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hi! We haven't left you out. It's Get Moving Kids. Home workout series with Jamaica Moves. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 2 p.m. on TVJ.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick.
Welcome back to Schools Not Out, your daily classroom for CSEC and CAPE subjects. Today we have been discussing CAPE Economics Unit 1, Income Distribution and Poverty. Now, just before the break, we were looking at the measures to alleviate poverty. And let's just run through them quickly again before I go to another section. So as we said before, education, so improving your skill set, having the provision of primary and secondary education, subsidizing tertiary education will help to alleviate poverty. We also said that the lowering of taxes like income tax, if they lower income tax, then you will have more disposable income. And as I said to you before, disposable income is that income that is left after all statutory deductions are taken out and what is left for you to spend on goods and services. And if we have a progressive tax system, then persons who earn less, they will pay less taxes and be able to afford more goods and services. Free health care. A healthy workforce will mean that we have a more productive labor force. And so if they have access to it, free health care, then we'll have a robust workforce. Minimum wage. So persons, please be aware of what the minimum wage is and ensure that you are paid that wage rate, that you are able to afford a decent standard of living. And again, we spoke about financing micro business, small business. You have persons with a lot of ideas. I find that a lot of the young people have a lot of ideas. They're on Instagram and so on. If they can get the finance that is required to boost their business, it will create employment for them, and they, of course, enjoy a better standard of living. And we spoke about the government creation, employment creation. Just also to recap, that the Lorentz curve, think about it as a bow and arrow set. So the straight path, which you will hold on to, will be your 45-degree line, and the bow that actually stretches. So sometimes and this is a tip in case you get a multiple choice question, they may show you, for example, 2 Lorentz curve here and ask you which one will have the greatest degree of inequality. Now this panel that is closest to the line of equality, the income is more equally distributed than in panel B, where it is further away from the line of equality. Just to remind you how the Gini coefficient is calculated, it's the area of B divided by the 2 areas here, A and B. Now let us just recap the main points for today. We looked at what is income inequality, the unequal distribution of income, and we look at how it is measured using 2 measurements. It's the Lorentz curve and the Gini coefficient. As it relates to poverty, we defined it as a state of deprivation where the person is not able to afford the basic necessities of life, food, clothing, water, shelter. We also looked at the types of poverty. Do you remember the types of poverty? Yes, they are absolute poverty where you just can't afford nothing at all. Nothing. And then you have relative poverty in comparison to the rest of the population. You are considered poor, but you are able to buy food, you can wear clothes, you have shelter, and so on. We also look at the groups that will fall vulnerable to poverty. And those groups, again, the physically challenged, the elderly, the youths, and single-parent households. And we also look at some of the measures to alleviate poverty. And we just went through them. Education, lowering of taxes, financing micro and small businesses, having government employment creation programs. All of these things will help to alleviate poverty. And here's a small quote by Nelson Mandela. Say, overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It's an act of justice. It is something that every country needs to tackle. So that's all for today for Cape Economics Unit 1, Income Distribution and Poverty. I hope you have grasped most of the points we have discussed, and you can catch a repeat of today's lesson on JNN today at 4 p.m. and in the Schools Not Out highlights on Saturday between 1 to 4 p.m. It will also be aired on video on demand on One Spot Media. Until next time, I'm Abigail James. CSEC English A is up next.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food,